In Peru, several sectors continue to mobilize as part of the third takeover of Lima in rejection of the national government and Congress. President-designate Dina Boluarte called the protest an alleged call to war. Russian President Vladimir Putin said on Wednesday that Russia is ready to return to the Great Deal immediately if all previously agreed upon conditions for its participation in the initiative are met. Kenyan was bracing on Wednesday for another tense day of opposition protests. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Alena Rosabal from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. Thousands of Peruvians traveled to the capital of the country to join on Wednesday the so-called third takeover of Lima. The appointed president, Dina Boluarte, described the action as a call for war. Social organizations and citizens gathered in the Peruvian capital to march to the government palace in rejection to the presidency of Dina Boluarte and the country's Congress. Demonstrators criticized the president's statement, who called the protest a threat to democracy. In turn, the citizens demanded the resignation of Boluarte to recover the political, economic, and social rights that were taken away from them. The mobilization in Lima is the most crowded. In the San Martin Square, which is guarded by PN agents minute by minute, more contingents of collectivists arrived to join the demonstration with different chants, posters, and many Peruvian flags in the central area of Lima, which has historically been the focal point of all the protests in the capital. On Wednesday, the Peruvian National Police threw tear gas canister at demonstrators in the city of Huancavelica, in a department of the same name, according to local media. The incident took place at noon before the biggest demonstration in the capital, Lima. According to the local media, Huanca York Times, the strike is almost absolute in Huancavelica, and traders stopped working, and the campus of the university city of Paturpampa remains closed for the second day in a row, it reported. According to the Ombudsman Office on his Twitter account, marches are being held in 35 provinces in 8 national roadblocks. On Wednesday, a petition endorsed by several activist organizations from the United States and the world asking for the withdrawal of U.S. troops from Peru was delivered at the site of the U.S. Congress. The petition was signed by nearly 2,000 people and organizations in Peru, the United States, and around the world, and is addressed to the Committees on Foreign Relations and on Appropriation of the U.S. House of Representatives. In June, over 1,200 U.S. military troops entered Peruvian territory with weapons of war and military equipment in an operation called Sentinel Resolute, together with the Peruvian Armed Forces. The drills are being carried out in the south of the country and are expected to run through December 2023. The petition claims that the U.S. troops are helping the de facto regime to massacre the people in Peru.
Swanson, Executive Director of World Beyond War. I'm here with Medea Benjamin of Code Pink and other friends and allies from Peru and from the United States to deliver this petition to the United States Congress, to the leaders of key committees, telling them that we do not want U.S. troops in Peru. We don't want U.S. troops in any countries, but to be sending U.S. troops in a time of crisis to support a coup government that is brutalizing the people of Peru is exactly the wrong idea. This is the first, easiest place to say no, get the U.S. troops out and don't send more in.
In Venezuela, the president of the National Assembly, Jorge Rodriguez, affirmed that they will never allow any foreign power to interfere in the internal affairs of the country.
Venezuela will never accept, never, that a foreign power or a foreign country or a foreign government try to interfere in the affairs that only concern Venezuelan men and women. We do not interfere in anyone's affairs. There are elections in the government of Spain. Very well, may they go very well, and may the elections take place in peace and within the canons established by the electoral authority of that country. And whoever won, won, and whoever lost, lost. We do not interfere in the affairs of Europe. We do not interfere in the affairs of France. We do not interfere in the affairs of Great Britain. We do not interfere in the affairs of Portugal. Why do other countries have to come and interfere in Venezuelan affairs?
Jorge Rodriguez ratified a communique signed in Brussels expressing a request for the lifting of sanctions and the holding of elections.
The President referred, and I do the same, to the communique that was published yesterday, signed by President Macron, by President Lula da Silva, by President Gustavo Petro, by the Vice President of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela, by the President of Argentina, Alberto Fernandez, where expressly there is a paragraph that states, "We request the lifting of all sanctions and the holding of free elections in Venezuela, as are all elections in Venezuela."
Moreover, the head of the Venezuela parliament highlighted the announcement made by the President Nicolas Maduro, where he refers to the consensus on dialogue and the need to eliminate the sanctions and coercive measures applied against Venezuela.
As indeed the President says, there was a consensus on the need to eliminate all unilateral, illegal, irregular, and illegitimate coercive measures against Venezuela. The return, in all its parts and in all its value, of all the assets that belong to the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela. They keep talking about free and fair elections, but Venezuela has been subjected to a brutal siege since 2016. President Maduro was re-elected in 2018, but do the math. We are already 8 years down the road.
Let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, new dates, and more. All the studies coming up, stay with us. Welcome back. On July 23rd, Spain will elect through parliamentary seats a new government or the continuity of the current one. According to analysts, the right wing is set to return to power in Sunday's election. Everything indicates that the Conservative People Party will retake the reins of the Moncloa Palace. According to polls and political analysts, the PP will ultimately have to pact with the far-right Vox, a party that denies climate change, gender violence, and even the United Nations 2030 agenda. As the polls predict, the socialist Pedro Sanchez is defeated. Alberto Núñez Feijóo, a Galician politician with a long career, will most likely become the future president. On Wednesday, Russian President Vladimir Putin said that Russia is ready to return to the Green Deal immediately if all previously agreed upon conditions for its participation in the initiative are met and the arrangement's original humanitarian essence is restored. President Putin also said that Russia repeatedly extended the Green Deal, demonstrating a miracle of endurance and patience and tolerance. Putin also noted that the Green Deal led to the direct losses for Russian farmers, which reached $1.2 billion. Additionally, the president stated that the West even creates obstacles to Russia-free deliveries of fertilizers to poorest countries. Finally, President Putin asserted that Moscow is not against the Green Deal and will consider the possibility to return only if all previously agreed upon conditions for participation are met.
The first is the withdrawal of sanctions on supplies of Russian grain and fertilizers to world markets. Second, all obstacles for Russian banks and financial institutions serving food and fertilizer supplies must be removed, talking about their immediate connection to the SWIFT international banking settlement system. We do not need any promises on this score and any ideas. We need these conditions to be met. Deliveries of spare parts and components for agricultural machinery and the fertilizer industry to Russia should be resumed. Furthermore, all issues with the rental of ships and the insurance of Russian export food supplies should be resolved. All food supply logistics should be secured. Further, unhindered conditions must be provided for expanding the supply of Russian fertilizers and the raw materials for their production.
China is willing to work with BRICS partners to inject positive energy into the turbulent and changing world, said the Foreign Ministry spokesperson Mao Ning.
The meeting of BRICS national security advisors and high representatives on national security is an important platform for BRICS countries to carry out political and security cooperation. China looks forward to having in-depth exchanges of views with BRICS partners on the current international security situation and issues of mutual interest at the meeting, building up consensus and deepening cooperation, so as to provide positive energy for a world that is experiences turbulence and transformation, and make political preparation for the BRICS summit to be held in August this year.
On Wednesday, Premier Li Qiang praised China's relationship with Algeria during a bilateral meeting in Beijing with Algeria President Abdelhamid Tebboune. China and Algeria should expand cooperation in emerging areas such as information, technology, digital economy, new energy vehicles, and space satellites to set an example for high-tech cooperation among developing countries. Li Qiang noted that China will continue to firmly support Algeria in safeguarding national sovereignty, independence, and territorial integrity, taking a development path suited to its national conditions and opposing external interference in Algeria's internal affairs. He also stated that the two sides should further strengthen cooperation in infrastructure construction and other additional traditional areas to achieve mutually beneficial results. In Switzerland, the World Health Organization expressed concern that the extreme heats in the northern hemisphere will test health systems. Health authorities detailed that the high temperatures are hitting the elderly and people with cardiovascular diseases, diabetes, and asthma the hardest. Officials also reported that this type of weather could affect to the great extent those who cannot handle the consequences of the heat, such as babies, people with special disabilities, and low-income and homeless people. Finally, the organization added that it's working together with the World Meteorological Organization to support the development of action plans to face climate change and reduce the impacts on humans. At the same time, in Greece, authorities continue to fight forest fires. The country's government issued a statement indicated that Romania, Slovakia, and Poland will send some 235 fighters to fight the raging blaze. Meanwhile, authorities pointed out that the increase in the demand for electricity due to the use of refrigeration equipment. Meanwhile, China maintains a 4-week rigorous streak of maximum temperatures above 35 degrees Celsius, affecting the health of its citizens. The Chinese Meteorological Administration reported that Beijing is undergoing an extreme heat wave that surpassed a 23-year record with 27 consecutive days of temperatures above 35 degrees Celsius. The Chinese government urged the elderly and children to stay indoors and reduce their time outdoors to reduce exposure to the sun and the stratospheric ozone pollution, one of the main components of the toxic cloud that envelops the city. We have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to visit our YouTube channel at teleSUR English. Then you'll be able to rewatch our interviews, top stories, special broadcastings, and more. Hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final short break, don't go away. Welcome back. Kenya was bracing on Wednesday for another tense day of opposition protests. The government promised to respond firmly to any outrage following deadly violence at previous rallies. The Azimio coalition, led by veteran politician Raila Odinga, called for 3 consecutive days of demonstrations starting on Wednesday against the policies of President William Ruto, whom they accused of exacerbating the rising cost of living in this East African country. The day began with police schools closed at the request of authorities in the 3 main cities of the country, the capital, Nairobi, Mombasa, and Kisumu. It is the 3rd time since the beginning of July that the opposition has organized such a day of action.
As a country, I think we are going in the wrong direction. It's only for the 2 leaders to come together and respect each other and agree on the way forward.
Today there is no business. Since morning, there's no business, no people moving around. Even as you can see, the shops are closed. We're just like that, no business at all.
Yeah, definitely it's affecting our business, matatu sector, because people are afraid, like today, they are indoors, because they are fearing, because there is insecurity.
In Algeria, at least 34 people were killed on Wednesday when a passenger bus collided head-on with a commercial vehicle and burst into flames in the desert. According to Algeria's Civil Defense Agency, this is one of the deadliest road accidents in recent years in a North African country and has also left 12 people injured, many of them with burns. Unversified media images show the bus hull smashed and shared after the accident, which occurred at the Naoudia Tamanrasset and some 2,000 kilometers from the capital, Algiers. The images broadcast by the local media show the bus turned into a huge ball of flames. According to the country road safety authority, Algeria recorded nearly 23,000 traffic accidents in 2022, resulting in 3,409 deaths and more than 30,000 injured. In Israel, a new day of protest is being held against the judicial reform promoted by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Around 250 demonstrators began a march from the capital, Tel Aviv, to occupy Jerusalem in rejection of the Israel executive actions. Thousands of protesters subsequently blocked train stations and roads across the country on the eve of a parliamentary vote on the key clause of the reform agenda. The reform, which is advancing at the legislative level, proposes to reduce the powers of the judiciary and increase those of the executive. A suspected glass explosion in the central business district of South Africa's commercial capital of Johannesburg left several people injured. One of Johannesburg's streets was affected by an explosion allegedly coming from the subway gas pipeline. Images circulated on social networks show vehicles overturned amid huge crowds running across the road. According to local media, the incident in the center of South Africa's largest city has left 9 people injured and around 23 vehicles damaged. The local authorities have already opened an investigation to clarify the facts. Emergency services have cordoned off the site and urged residents to neighboring buildings to evacuate. We have come to the end of News Brief. You can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For telesur English, I'm Elena Rosabal. Thank you for watching.